Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to the Long Distance Work Life, the show where we try to help you thrive, survive, generally keep the weasels at bay in this crazy world of remote and hybrid work. And I am Wayne Turmel. Marissa is not here today. That's the bad news, I suppose. The good news is that we have a really interesting guest, Dan O'Connell from Brand Lab 360. We are going to talk about virtual workplaces and all kinds of things, and probably easier to bring him in than have me explain it. So Dan, how are you?
Hi Wayne, I'm very well, and thanks so much for having me on your show.
Well, as always, thank you for being had. Who are you and what the heck do you do?
Wayne, well, yeah, I'm Dan O'Connell. I'm one of the founders, the co-founder of Brand Lab 360. We have a virtual reality platform that we call virtual reality way back when we started building it 9 years ago, but quickly evolved due to popular culture into a metaverse or Web3 or spatial web, or whatever you want to call it. The platform is unique in that it's still unique in that we're able to render high definition graphics, photorealistic graphics in a web browser in real time, because we believe and have always believed that there can be no barrier to entry. If this is going to be the next generation of the web, then not everyone's going to have a headset or a big device or a huge graphics card. So yeah, one of the many companies that have virtual reality platforms or gaming platforms or whatever you want to call them, but unique in that we can stream almost CGI level graphics in a browser. So we concentrate on the kind of the server architecture more than anything to enable that.
Yeah, it looks cool, and we will have a link to a sample folks can click and check it out for themselves. And as always, you are not the first person that I have said this to. For heaven's sake, don't take it personally. It's cool, but what does it actually do for a team, right? What is it? What is the problem that you were solving for when
Yeah.
you
Yeah, so our remote working product is one of many products and many activations that we've done. We actually started in the fashion industry. If I can give you a little bit of context on that, it'll help kind of,
Sure.
paint a picture of why now we're Virtual HQ. So we started in the fashion industry with a platform that enabled the trade to do business online. So traditionally showrooms, fashion weeks and all this type of stuff. And we built a kind of an e-com style platform for that. And then demand meant that fashion buyers wanted something a bit more immersive. And they particularly wanted the ability, well, two things. One, to move product around, so merchandise, and visualize it in their stores. And then they wanted to be with their brand rep, with their seller, with their person they do business with. And e-com didn't and doesn't allow you to do that. So we quickly realized to do that, we had to create a platform that was based on video gaming and put it into the web. So the context of that is important, I think, because in fashion, relationships and human relationships, and I came from the fashion industry, are the utmost number one driver of business and any end game in the fashion trade. It's all about relationships. It's all about the people you meet on shows, and it's a very human thing. So when fashion buyers started to use kind of internet platforms, or they were forced to use internet platforms to do business, they didn't like it. And I think that goes back to the fact that you're with someone, and then all of a sudden you're on a flat 2D screen and you're meant to do your job. So our first product was Showroom 360. It was the world's first true kind of 3D fashion showroom, and crucially it allowed people to be together in there. So you and I would be in there together, picking up clothes, turning them around, talking and doing our business. What came after that, once we nailed photorealistic graphics, was other industries coming to us. The property industry, for example, builds something that's not built yet, and we can walk around it with our potential buyer. To learning, training and development. And then remote working is something that we fell into as a derivative of all those other things. So I think it's a really good question, what problem does it solve? Because I can give you a really good definitive answer on all the other industries we were in. So even the fashion industry, it saves so much travel for a brand and buyer to be in a virtual version than them traveling around the world, and not least the damage to the environment and all that stuff. Remote working is tricky because I think it's nuanced. I think it's really nuanced. So when COVID came and all of a sudden Zoom and Teams come into our consciousness, I never heard of Zoom, and I'm a tech founder, you know, and all of a sudden it's part of our daily lives.
Well,
Um,
it's quite amazing. I mean, Zoom
hmm,
went from nobody knows what it is to a verb to
yeah,
a syndrome in
yeah,
less than 18 months. It was really quite
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting because I first got the idea of Brand Lab. I was in LA in Fashion City in the California Market Center back in 2012, I think it was. And I noticed that a brand rep was got a video camera out, and one of the girls who worked in the office was changing into an outfit, coming out and kind of doing a bit of a catwalk show. I asked him, what's this about? He said, oh, this is something called Skype. And it's like that was back then, right? So the precursor to Teams, Microsoft product. And he said we can't afford to go up and down the coast in the van anymore. The cost of gas, so we're trying to sell by video. And it kind of gave me the initial embryonic idea of Brand Lab. But the reason that virtual HQ, and by the way, Wayne, we haven't invented 3D remote working. There's some great products out there. Verbella is really notable. You may have heard of a fantastic product. There's lots of others. And I think the reason why they and us and others have gone into this market of remote working is that I don't feel Zoom and Teams does enough. I mean, we had a great chat before we started and built a great rapport. But ultimately, at the end of this, the laptop goes down and we're disconnected. There's something really psychologically satisfying about being an avatar, doing your meeting, whether it's video chat or VoIP or avatar to avatar, but then watching us walk off in different directions and maybe engaging with someone else and seeing someone at the water cooler. And I feel that's the missing link. And there's been psychologists who've done studies on this type of thing. You actually feel more together as a cartoon avatar with spatial audio and seeing you walk off and interact with other people than you do video to video 2D. So I feel that what it's solving is a number of things. There's what I'm just alluding to now, which is more about, I don't want to say well-being or employee well-being, but just that feeling of immersion and being with your peers that video chat can't do, as great as it is. And by the way, our product and other products still allows for video chat, so you can still go and sit in a chair opposite each other and open up a video call. So there's that. I think there's an element of efficiency as well. Now, a lot of my team will tell you that even for a tech founder, I'm not that IT savvy, and it's quite hard to get hold of me and to get me on a call and to get a number of us on a call. And what do we do when we want to chat? We WhatsApp each other. Are you free? We Slack message each other. Can we do a quick call? Can we do this? We message on Teams. Eventually, we hope to all be there. In virtual remote working platforms, you've all got your own office and you do what you would do in real life. I would get out off my chair and go to your office, Wayne, and see if you're there. And you're either going to be on the phone or you're going to be engaged, or your door's going to be open and I can knock and walk in and we can have a chat and then we can call other people in. So there's an efficiency of meeting time in there as well as the obvious of feeling immersed with your peers. So I think what you're solving is maybe a bit of loneliness for people who work from home. We all feel part of that. It's fun as well. We're big believers in the concept of retailtainment, gamification to engage people, whether it's one of our fashion retail activations or stuff we've done for the Olympics recently, to remote working. You can race speedboats and jet skis and fly planes in our virtual world for points, and then there's a meaning at the end of it. Then you'll see some type of some motivational quote on the billboard. You'll then go into a psychometric test. It's all based around work, but adding fun into work as well that you simply can't do on video calls.
Okay, I get all of that. My grumpy old cishet white guy alarm goes off when people say, people respond avatar to avatar better than they do in I'm not entirely sure I agree with that. I'm sure there is evidence to back it up. I'm not sure I get that. On the other hand, I still thank Alexa when she gives me an answer. So the way that we interact with technology is clearly changing. I guess my next question is the idea of fun and gamification, and I am not anti-fun and like that, but I'm wondering, the people that hold the purse strings, do they get it? When you go into a company, I'm guessing in most cases the leaders of the company are demographically older. They're usually more traditional because that's how they got there. What's the conversation like with them, convincing them that this is not just, capital F in quotes fun, but actually practical?
I think that's interesting. I believe that's the same type of robot block, though, that when email came out, when any type of workspace CRM system come out, when Zoom or Teams come out. In fact, I remember myself thinking, why can't we just phone each other? When we were invited to download Zoom and all that type of stuff. So I think there's an element of that. I think you're also right. Not everyone's going to get it, but obviously there's a huge addressable market here because most companies are using remote working tools like Zoom, Teams, and Slack. I think this is just maybe something that sits on top and incorporates some of those features. So I think there is the practicality element with the what you mentioned, and it's a really pertinent point about the avatar to avatar thing. Is that a thing? Are you that immersed that you feel it? Go back to Verbella, which again I think is great. I remember popping in there once, years and years ago in lockdown, actually, to see what it was all about. I mean, we'd already built our virtual fashion showrooms at that point, and I downloaded the Verbella app, and I went in there, and it was really interesting because it's open, so there's other people in there that you might not know, and I was walking in a little area of it. And someone was walking towards me. And at that moment, it was a real eureka moment because I felt the same kind of social anxiety that I would have if I was walking past someone down a corridor in an office and not knowing whether to say hello or not. And we walked towards each other. And I thought, do I stop and say hello, to say how you doing? And we both, and me and this chap both had this kind of like, oh, hi, how are you? And it was a really interesting guy who was an executive for Nokia. And we got to know each other, swapped emails, and we corresponded and become associates. And it was at that moment that I realised that there was the key moment. I felt the same as real life, even though I was this little cartoon character walking up the street. So, but yeah, you've got to believe it. Practicalities are, I think, ultimately, is this saving money? Is it a solution to a problem rather than nice to have? And then, for example, we've integrated everything you can do in Slack into VHQ, everything you can do in Zoom, everything you can do in Teams, plus you've got the virtual reality world. So ultimately we can go to managers and executives and say, this will actually save you some dollars, as well as hopefully giving your employees a really nice immersive experience.
I want to drill down on something that you said, and you play in this world. Clearly I don't. So this is a legit question. You mentioned that you're walking down the hallway and the other guy's walking down the hallway. Does the avatar you choose matter? Does the fact that it looks like you or represents you in some way? I mean, I've talked to people on these platforms where you can be an orc. Well, I don't think walking down the hallway, I would have the same conversation with an orc.
I get it.
That I'm having with you. Does the form of the avatar matter that much?
I don't think so, no. There's a lot of self-expression. We have people who use our product and they express themselves in any way they want. There's some fun stuff that you can dress up in and fun stuff you can do. So no, I don't think so. There's a technical point that's pertinent to that though, Wayne. I mentioned earlier we can get photorealistic graphics in a browser and CGI level stuff, but generally that's vegetation, buildings, items. What's very, very difficult is get humans. it'd take a good 3D artist forever to make a really good avatar. So clearly on a mass consumer product, you can't have photorealistic avatars. I've got one in one of our environments, but the guys kind of did volumetric capture on me and, a bit of photogrammetry, and it's brilliant, but you can't do that for every user, obviously. And that's an interesting thing. We discussed this because you've got great graphics, but then the avatars can never be as good as the graphics, even if you use great tools like Ready Player Me. So I think naturally people go down the road then of doing something fun. You know what I mean? Like giving yourself like a ginger red wig or whatever it is, or, curly wig and that type of thing, and hats, and wearing like wild clothes. So that's the fun element, and when we first user tested it, a lot of the feedback was that quite shy teammates who in real life, they don't really express themselves at all, were the ones putting on the wild avatar outfits and going around on hoverboards and wearing wigs and things. So yeah, there's an element of self-expression within it as well that you touched on then. But to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't think it has to look like you. Ready Player Me is great. You take a photo of yourself and it's a really flattering version of you every time, but they know it's you. But
God bless them.
Yeah. Sometimes you get funny things, like you get a boss come in, they don't do it right, and they turn up as like a bald woman or something with shades on, and they don't realize that's how they projected themselves. But yeah, I don't think it really matters. In all our environments, your name is above you, so you know who you're talking to.
If somebody's looking at this, and we will have links to your virtual HQ, so people can check it for themselves. When you're looking at this sort of thing, what are the criteria? Like, what do you need? And I know every organization is different, but in general, what are the things you're looking for in a good virtual office platform?
Okay, I believe the number one of what you're looking for is space. It sounds crazy to say that out loud, but some virtual platforms, virtual worlds will charge you on how big your environment is. So, 8-person office costs you this, a 20-person office costs you that. If you want a bigger building, it costs you that. The reason people like 3D worlds is that humans inherently love the art of exploration. And I think if you do a 3D virtual office product where, you've discovered it and walk around it in 10 seconds, it can become very boring very quickly. So for me, it's space. Now, technically, though, of course, having space running in browsers without big apps and downloads is quite a complicated thing. If we do say so ourselves, that's one thing we've nailed. Some of the graphics behind, and you'll see if people go into the link. Our virtual HQ is based on an island that is huge. There's islands and islands, and you can go and you're discovering caves and new offices and new things. I think that's really important, because you can feel very claustrophobic and very bored very quickly. So space is number one. Maybe joint one, and I'm going to say this, I'm probably explicitly showing off about what we do, but barrier to entry, Wayne, a lot of people are not tech savvy. I'm not tech savvy in terms of IT. I was really impressed by your platform to do this podcast, how easy it was. It was very easy to get in it, and very easy. It worked really well. Because of the limitations of technology, a lot of virtual worlds, you have to download an app or a clunky add-on to your browser. And company firewalls don't like it. The IT teams don't like it. They're paid to stop this type of thing. And all of a sudden you go into your IT department, can you open this port on the firewall? Can you open that port? Or even they need headsets or devices. So with us, it's web-based. It's as easy as going into www. and into a website, put your password in, and you're in. So I think a good virtual platform should be web-based, because we access the internet via the web. That's how we do it, on our phones or on our laptops. So to me, that's important for mass adoption. And yeah, the element of space. A couple of little cool things, like obviously there's VoIP in most of these things, so you can chat, obviously, but little things like spatial audio rather than just plain VoIP. So a lot of virtual worlds, you'll go in a room together and only we can hear each other, great. But then you can't go really in communal worlds because there's hundreds of people and you're not going to hear yourself think. Spatial audio is a real good tool. So it's the idea that us close together can hear each other really well. We can hear chatter in the background, but only when we walk over to those people can we hear them talking loud. And that replicates the real life experience.
That is very cool. And thank you. That is really good information. I am a geek for context. And so understanding what the origins of this were, right,
Yeah.
helps me understand it a little bit more. Dan O'Connell, Virtual HQ is the product, Brand Labs 360 is the organization. We will have links to all of that good stuff on our website. The website, of course, lest we forget, is longdistanceworklife.com. If you are watching this rather than listening to it, the LDL on the end, I will explain in a moment. Dan, thank you for being with us, man.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and so we are coming to the end. A couple of things that I want to share with you. The first, and I'm really excited to say this, 6 years ago, Kevin and I wrote The Long Distance Leader, Rules for Remarkable Remote Leadership. The new edition, Revised Rules for Remarkable Remote and Hybrid Leadership, is available now. By the time you read this, it will be available now. You can find us if you go to kevinikenberry.com LDL. You can go to Amazon, Waterston's Chapters, wherever you buy books. By golly, there we are. If you've enjoyed this show, please tell your friends, clearly, like and subscribe. I hate sounding like some 12-year-old YouTuber, but like and subscribe, darn it. And if you are interested, if you have a question, a comment, a vicious personal attack, a topic suggestion, let Marissa or I know. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can email us, Wayne@kevinikenberry.com, Marissa@kevinikenberry.com. Wow, I think that's it for now. Next week, we will be back. Marissa will be with us. On behalf of the Long Distance Leader, we urge you to please, please, please invest in yourself, invest in your time. And thank you for being with us. Don't let the weasels get you down.